Secret friends, unite!
Hey, gang, welcome back to Secret Friends Unite. Oops! All Thunderdome. This is our topic-based show. We just jump right on into something of the moment, or sometimes something from the past, and give you our 30-minute take. I am joined by my easiest to get co-host, April, my wife. I know, it's like, come on, Carden, you do better than this. You're incorrect. I cannot. No.
Thank you.
She certainly could, but I can't do better than this. This is the very best I can do. But yeah, we are going to be talking about a brand new spinoff of a show that April likes very, very much. I'm referring to the original series being The Handmaid's Tale, which is, I've dabbled about, mentioning it in the past on the show, in the distant past. I think that show has a history going back almost 10 years, maybe 2017, if I'm guessing correctly.
Maybe. I don't remember.
But, honey, give us a Reader's Digest version of the Handmaid's Tale.
It was originally a book written by Margaret Atwood, and when the show came out, it was slightly different from the book. But basically, there has been a crisis in the world where not as many babies are being born. So what ultimately is kind of a religious cult, comes up, takes over the government. Yeah, takes over the government and forces handmaids basically into slavery to provide children for the rich and powerful who cannot have children. Of course, ultimately in the show, you realize that it's likely the men that were the problem, not the women.
Right.
But,
that's the way it is in real life, too.
Yeah. And of course, the handmaids revolt, and they have this organization that's run by Marthas, who are the maids in the households, and the handmaids who they called May Day, and basically it's the rebellion.
Right. The Rebel Alliance. And so the series we're talking about, we haven't gotten into the main thrust of our show here. But The Handmaid's Tale aired on Hulu. It was a Hulu original back in, again, 2017. And it wrapped up last year after, having suffered some big delays thanks to writer strikes and all, and COVID, like everything. But we have a spinoff. Our main actress on that was Elizabeth Moss. It really kind of revolutionized her career. She, of course, got her start in Mad Men, which is another show that April and I rewatched again recently, and is beautiful and a timeless show. So it's crazy to see kind of how far she's become. But anyway, this show now has its first spinoff called The Testaments. As April was kind of describing from The Handmaid's Tale, it's a dystopian drama based on a 2019 novel. So after the Handmaid's Tale television program had been out, you'd mentioned to me, Margaret Atwood wrote another novel, wrote her own spinoff, and The Handmaid's Tale itself came out in the 80s, if I'm not mistaken, because I know there was a TV movie in 90 or 91, or maybe it was a theatrical film, or it was a cable movie or something.
No, I think it was
starring, was it Vanessa Redgrave? I don't know. I would have to look up. But this was created by Bruce Miller, not sure who he is, and came on just earlier this month. We're recording in April of 2026. Starring kind of it girl of the moment, Chase Infinity, who was in the One Battle After Another Oscar-winning film. I don't know if she won an Oscar, but that film won the hell out of the Oscars. So we're just going to jump right on into it. We're going to do what we always do when we cover a first episode reacts show. And again, this is episode 566 of our show, by the way. Sometimes I forget to mention that if you're keeping track and you don't see it in your show notes. We're going to do what we always do. when we cover a first episode reacts is that we're looking to kind of whet your appetite after you've watched the first episode, or even get you to watch the episode if you don't care about spoilers, because we do talk about spoilers. We cover kind of four tenets, if you were. We talk about our favorite moments. We talk about some moments that we could have kind of done without, or maybe even some missed opportunities, which in the first episode of a show, there are not likely to be as many. Your season 1 wish list, like stuff that you really want to see. And then I'm a big proponent of doing a score of whatever it is talked about from 1 to 10. So let's jump right on in. Again, let's jump in further. April, talk to me about some of your favorite moments from the episode.
Yes. So I loved the beginning at the intro. Not only does it give like words on the screen explaining
the title card sequence. I loved it too.
The title card sequence. Not only that, but also Agnes, who is the first main character that we see. And she is the daughter of June's character from the Elizabeth Moss character from the original show. And
who
we are aware of Agnes. Yeah. We've known her throughout
because
the Handmaid's Tale.
We meet her in flashbacks in the first Handmaid's Tale, which is showing the collapse of society, where Agnes and her husband Luke, they're a biracial couple. So Chase Infinity
June and her husband.
June. What did I say? Agnes and her husband. That would be weird. That would be weird. They're a biracial couple. So Agnes is a biracial child, but they're being pursued by and it's Gilead is the name of the state. They're being pursued, and they appear to have killed Luke, and they take the baby and they take June and they separate them, and the baby goes into the system to be raised and indoctrinated to a time to eventually become a wife.
But after the title cards, you see Agnes's dollhouse, and she's talking about how it looks just like her house, and all of the dolls are just like the people in her household. And one notable thing, there is no handmaid in her household. And also you see like the Marthas, and you see the wife, who it turns out to be her stepmom. Which honestly, her mother that she talks about isn't her mother either. It's her adopted mother in this Gilead world.
Or assigned mother would be more accurate. Yes.
This is true.
Yeah.
But you see her describing the household members, and you start to see some cracks in Agnes, because she's talking about her stepmom, the wife doll, and she seems to be punishing the wife doll. She doesn't love
Just slamming it in the dumbwaiter.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I really enjoyed that, because you see that maybe Agnes isn't as bought into the society as she looks like she is on the outside.
Right. You know, and there was something funny when we get to the end of the episode, is that Agnes is talking about, well, I hadn't met my real mother yet, but in The Handmaid's Tale, she did, but perhaps she was too young. Because, I mean, again, you know, that was something back in the old show. June's foil was Serena Joy, who would play games, who was the wife of the commander, in which the household that June was a handmaid in, was playing games with her life to get her cooperation. And at one point, she took June to the household where young Agnes, what was her daughter's? Hannah was her name, is her birth name. Took her to their household, but the young girl, she was very young, and I feel like, they tried to, I feel like maybe that's a little bit of a plot hole. But maybe it's something to be explained, or maybe they just simply say, well, I was too young to even remember who my real mother was.
Or maybe she was traumatized, because it was a weird situation. There were multiple weird situations with her.
Yeah.
But I also liked because there's narrating, which is a concept that was in the book. There was always and in the original Handmaid's Tale, there was always narration happening. Because the show is being narrated, we're introduced to things like the different colors. So, you know, pink is the younger girls. Purple means they're older and they're destined to a commander, potentially a high commander. And then green means that they've gotten their period and they're ready to get married.
Disgusting.
Which would have really sucked for me. I was 10. Yeah, gross. And And then
Whoa.
Pearl Girls. Pearl Girls are from outside of Gilead, and they're converting. So we're introduced
Right,
to Pearl
and
Girls as well.
that's really where we launch in kind of the main piece of it. So, yeah, I like kind of the angle shift, just like what you were talking about. Our narrator throughout the original show was obviously Elizabeth Moss character, and you're getting the perspective of someone as an adult whose life is completely subverted to become part of this new society. Where when we backshift to Agnes, this is someone who was brought into this new world in a time before she was probably 1 or 2 when we see her
I
in
think she
that
was
flashback
2,
sequence,
yeah.
and so now 10, not closer to 15 years, but we'll say over 10 years, but somewhere between 10 and 13 years has gone by since that time. And it is established that this is 4 years after the end of The Handmaid's Tale, referred to as the Battle of Boston, which was the big climactic fight at the end in the final episode of the series. But I think it's fascinating to see the narration from the perspective of someone who is not completely, but in so much that, for the vast majority of their life, they're just completely swallowed over by the dogma and the propaganda of this very sick society, bent on persecution and violence. I say, I wrote the narrated thoughts of a single survivor who is just starting to figure out that she's a survivor of all of this trauma. So, yeah. What else, please?
Yes. Then, of course, school is like needlework, weaving, tea. It's all the things a wife needs to know. It's not about reading, writing, and arithmetic. So,
well, yeah, because they can't even read it. They'll lose a finger.
That continuing. Yes, exactly. And then towards the end, because we had throughout this, we'd been introduced to Daisy, who is a Pearl Girl, and at the end, we find out she's part of Mayday when she starts to listen to the radio.
Right.
And she flashes back to the before Gilead times, and we see June Osborne, which is amazing at the end. And I wasn't sure if that was going to happen because I didn't read the book. Unfortunately.
Tisk. Unfortunately, like it's out of your control.
I know.
Oh, it's I'm the same way. April and I talk about this on all of our shows. April, like me, is really shitty at reading books. Yeah. We have stacks of books, and I'm very lucky that I do get advanced copies of certainly books from Simon & Schuster, Star Trek books, because obviously I make that show. And I work my ass off, particularly because I talk to so many of these authors to find time to read, and I'm bad at it. So I'm working on it.
I should read the book. I know that the book has a slightly different premise, and I believe that June is not in the book.
Okay.
So now it makes me want to read the book more. But
good.
I'm really glad that they brought her back here.
Yes.
As part of Mayday.
It's good connective tissue. And the other thing I noted is that it's one of the few things that if somebody just turned this on and didn't know anything about The Handmaid's Tale, it's kind of the only thing that would make them go, oh, who's that supposed to be?
Yeah.
Because everything else is very, I think, greatly accessible to someone who doesn't know what they're walking into. So the other returning character we have is Aunt Lydia, who was kind of the main villainous Martha right from the beginning of the original show. And I love the explanation, like, some people after post-war get hanged and some get statues made out of it, because I wrote it was kind of the evil Hogwarts that they're living in there, that they go to school at, is the Aunt Lydia school of I read it in the description. We were sitting to watch that. It's like it's the premarital academy. Oh yeah. So gross.
She was an aunt, not a Martha.
An aunt. There you go. Yeah, because that's the hierarchy is the ants are the head distillers of punishment.
In The Handmaid's Tale, the ants were responsible for the handmaids, but obviously that's evolved because there are less handmaids, because more and more girls are able to have babies. So they probably have less handmaids, I assume. So now they have this school.
Right. Yeah. To Fertile Myrtle. So I was struggling for most of the episode because I was driving me nuts that they didn't tell us where this was taking place. And she finally does. Agnes does mention that in dialogue. So, but she says they're in Maryland, which my mom lives in Maryland. We're kind of familiar with Maryland. But DC, or what was Washington, DC, is still the capital. So there's probably, tons of security. That's why. So it was kind of blew my mind in The Handmaid's Tale is that there was so much security. On every street corner, there was like two guys with radios listening.
And inside the grocery store. And
yeah, exactly. To make sure that you weren't getting frisky with the oranges or all that kind of shit. Even more so than the first show, great soundtrack. And again, these shows are produced in Toronto, which was an easy slide in because we do find out that Daisy is a plant from Toronto, like she volunteered. And again, the fourth episode is out now. The purpose of this is only to really talk about the first episode because we want to kind of get you educated and see if this is something for you, or just so you can hear our thoughts after you've watched the first as well. But they're kind of teeing her up that June is looking in the grocery store as we're getting a flashback as Faith, who is our Pearl, the girl who goes in, is walking into a store or whatever, and June's looking over her shoulder, and so you get the feeling, and what's established by the radio. If she's listening to the radio, and I swear to God, and I checked the credits too, that's Stephen Colbert who's the voice of the radio, but it's not on IMDb. But Stephen, I'd know you anywhere. We love you, Stephen. We were in New York just recently, standing outside of the Ed Sullivan Theater with the big queue of people to go in and see the show. And April had tried to get tickets because we love it so much. But I stopped talking to people. The people running it, they were very, very nice. But yeah, so much Canada, big old shot of Lake Erie, and then they put you in Toronto. So, but at the same time, that when they're grilling Faith at the table, and they're like, "Hey, where are you from?" "Oh, I'm from Toronto in Canada." "Well, hey, how is that?" "It's a hellmouth, and it's a hope that gets swallowed up." And it's like she's laying it out a little thick. But by the way, have some ice cream. But it's total Mean Girls because as they walk away, they're like, "Yeah, you got to plumb up and stick it to her," or whatever. Plumb up, like nut up, like yeah, it's professionally Mean Girls. So let's talk about, it can't be anything Handmaids if there's not some kind of graphic, horrible violence. So what kind of graphic, horrible violence do we see in this episode, honey?
First of all, it was Daisy, right? You kept saying Faith, but it's Daisy.
Yeah, is Faith another character? Am I losing my mind?
I don't remember.
Maybe I thought of Faith in the Hellmouth because that was from Buffy.
Maybe, but it's Daisy. So yeah, they're one of the guardians at the school is masturbating, apparently.
We caught it off screen, thank God.
And they discovered him and he's being punished. So they bring all the girls in and they get really excited. Like a couple of them are super nuts.
And all of them are in the mezzanine, in the gymnasium.
Yes.
And they're all staring down, and there's a table set up, and they drag this guy in. Yeah.
And they pull a saw out from the underneath the table, and
like a bandsaw,
cuffed to the table, and they cut off his hand, and all of the girls are going crazy and yelling, and Daisy is the only one that acts like a human.
Right. You know what I noticed watching it the second time, because obviously we just rewatched this to do a notes watch, is that their main Martha, the Asian lady with the glasses, really kind of looked. So I wonder if that's if that's a crack in the armor. So it makes you start to wonder, because this is a 10 episode season, with 4 episodes already down, and this comes out on Hulu, and different streamers do different things. Like the old model was like, oh, Netflix will drop everything on day one, which is great. But as we've often talked on this show, it's great for us, the viewer. It's less great for the streamer because somebody comes out, binges 8 episodes, and then they move on to something else, where having something coming out every week keeps the buzz going. If I'm watching it, I can talk to somebody else about it, tell them, I can do a podcast about it and say, hey, there's still time for you to tune in, or I really like this, or you don't know about this thing. But the other side of it is that, a lot of people are like, well, I'm waiting until it's over or whatever it is. But and then it's interesting because Daisy is very good at doing the play acting of like, oh,
Yes.
open his eye, blah blah blah. But when she runs, because she flips out seeing this guy get his his hand cut off, and she runs down the staircase and vomits on the floor. Then Agnes comes along and she's like, "What did I just see?" Well, he broke the rules, and she's like, "What the fucking blah blah blah." Like she like totally drops the show business.
Yes.
And then one of the other aunts or Martha's fiddles on the stage, says, "Oh, we'll help her," and so it was Agnes's perfect chance to rat her out, like, "Oh, she was taking the Lord's name in vain," and she doesn't do it. Right. So again, cracks in the armor. But it was crazy to see, and all her friends are like very, Sarah Plain and tall. Look at, like, I got the one girl who looks like Pippi Longstocking. You know what I mean? It's like, how do they find, what kind of casting call they do? It's like, we want the most plain, not even girl next door looking kind of girls. I'm sorry to talk about people's appearances. I know that's kind of gauche, but still, it's like, how do they find them? But yeah, that was like crazy. And then, so we're moving forward. We get the Radio Free Boston moment, and then we get the big establishing Toronto flashback of Daisy skateboarding, trying to look as young and hip as possible. And then we flash back. So all the girls who are the new imports have to, sleep in the orphanage there. That's what it looks like. It looks like Little Orphan Annie. But then we go back to Agnes. How does Agnes wrap up, because we've kind of gone all the way through, but how does Agnes wrap up the episode? What does her narration say? Or what do we see?
Well, she gets her period, which means now she is destined to get married soon. So she's gonna get her green dress.
Cool. She's 14. Child bride. Super awesome.
Which is something that June was afraid of, even in The Handmaid's Tale. I mean, anybody, as soon as they have a period, they're eligible.
Livestock. It's fucked
that
up.
Period could come at any time.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Oh. Yeah, my one thing I could have done without was I wanted to know where it was set, because they didn't tell us right away. They annoyed the shit out of me. But that was my only and again, a moments could have done without. Probably, I was both could have done without the tee up to the guy getting his hand cut up, and then he was gagged, but then he vomited through the gag, and it's like, okay, could have been. But at least they didn't get all the way out. They don't go all the way graphic, which is good, because we don't need to see that. It's not. No. It's more psychological,
and it's
to me to imagine.
Introducing the concepts and how normalized it is to these girls. Right. It's not something that is foreign to them. I even though I didn't read the book, I'm familiar with the concepts in the book. And in the book, Agnes and Daisy are Hannah and Nicole. But because the timing doesn't work, in the book, 15 years had passed. In the show, only 4 years have passed. Right. So they cannot be half sisters, because Nicole would be very young. She would be 5. Right. At this point. So the theory is that Daisy is instead one of the children saved on the Angel Flight plane, which is the first plane of children out of Gilead that June helped make happen.
Right. Made her an international terrorist. That's right.
Yes. So the missed opportunity was really the timing for me, because I think it would have been great to establish that Agnes and Daisy are sisters.
Right.
But that's not going to happen.
Right. Right. Yeah. They had to bend things a little bit. Yeah, definitely. Without a doubt. All right. Let's talk about what's on your season 1 wish list. Like, what are you dying to see happen?
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Agnes learning more about June and eventually reuniting with her. I know that won't happen in season 1, of course, because they're going to draw that out.
Of course.
That was the entire goal for June, for the entire Handmaid's Tale series, was getting back to her daughter. Even like forfeiting time with the second daughter she had, Nicole, in order to save Hannah. That was her ultimate goal throughout the entire series. And seeing that actually happen is something that I'm looking forward to. But I know that that's not going to happen in season 1. Obviously, she already alluded to finding out who her mother is. So that realization is going to happen in season 1. Or you'll at least see her realize, because
Right.
as we know
Yeah.
from Handmaid's Tale, she has met her, she has seen her, but
Right.
it was a very weird circumstance, one of which involved her being caged, and another one where she was in an abandoned house that
Right.
so it was just
Yeah.
weird situations that I'm sure she
Like-
blocked out.
Lots of psychological games that anybody
Yes.
would block out. So, yeah, I mean, looking forward to seeing some Gideonites get smited, and shown the error of their ways, because hopefully the resistance, the people that are the good guys, will infiltrate or otherwise make things difficult, destroy the school, whatever it is.
It would be great if the stepmom was gone.
Oh, yeah.
I do think that there are some members of the resistance that exist within the school, and I'm sure we'll learn more about that in the future.
Yes. Yeah, and as I was going to say, June's mission for the Pearl girl, who is Daisy, is the unfolding mystery. That's obviously going to be one of the biggest pieces. But I would say if it's anything like Handmaid's Tale, it's not going to be anything close to what you would expect. There'll be twists and turns and backstabbing, and you already know that all the girls there are totally nuts, and they'll do things like we'll walk through a park, and here's some guys who have gotten hanged, and you have carrion birds picking at their bones, and let's talk about why they got hanged, and they're all like, oh well, they got hanged because they're rapists, like it's totally fine.
Yeah.
So yeah, it will be a dramatically edge of your seat kind of deal. So, all right, let's talk episode rating, 9 to 10. Hit me with it.
I said 10 out of 10, which seems crazy. But I just really enjoyed it. I thought they did a really good job.
I always have to, I shaved a point off for the lack of a setting, but then they put it back in, but I'm going to leave it off because they didn't tell me up front. It was driving me nuts. But I love it. It dug right in. And again, it washes over the Handmaid's Tale fan. It washes over the newcomer who hasn't seen the show, doesn't read books real good. And it swept us in with new characters. It gave us a new setting and started continuing that world building. And again, that title card really got the job done because it said, here's what's going on, blah, 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 and all this different stuff. And again, they're going to keep you on the edge of your seat, on the edge of your stomach, I wrote. And hopefully, with hopefully keeping the graphic violence to a minimum, because again, I think they do so much better with the psychological terror in this show. And that's what really makes it so scary. And again, being that we don't generally talk about politics a lot on the show, but the parallels, you and I said this 10 years ago, the parallels to what we are looking at and what's happening in this country right now here in the US of A, no names need to be dropped, are pretty damn scary. So seeing evil be defeated within the context of that show, and then hopefully within this one as well, and hoping it happens in our country as well. Fingers crossed. All right. Well, we'll continue watching it. We may come back and do a wrap up once this is over, even though we're getting into the summer season, so we'll be talking about a lot of movies. But yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. And April, thanks for making the long trek up to your office to get on the microphone
it was so tough.
and talk to me. April is in her office. I am in my studio, which is in the basement of our home. Honey, how do people find you out there on the internet if they want to talk about Handmaids?
I am at the April Carden on Instagram.
Excellent. And as always, I am both the Secret Friends Unite social medias and myself. You can search Secret Friends Unite anywhere except for X, and generally TikTok. We kind of stay away. But I am at the C3, TheCeethree. I've also finally gotten back to doing my little 3-minute or less kitchen chats, which I usually do in the dining room now, but kitchen chat sounds a little catchier. And April edits them for me because, I obviously can't learn how to do that. But I spend a little bit of time just talking about things that I'm enjoying just as really a supplement to this show. But as always, friends, thanks for tuning in. Again, secretfriendsunite@gmail.com is another great place to find us if you want to just let us know if about any shows you're enjoying or if you watch this show. And again, secretfriendsunite.com. You can find all of our content. And of course, over on patreon.com/secretfriendsunite for more great content, including a great show that April and I do about bad movies, of which we have a new episode coming out this next weekend. So that's it, friends. Like one more time, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring. To keep on trucking.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.